Alex had never believed in aliens. Not seriously, anyway. Movies, stories, rumors, sure, they were entertaining. But sharing an apartment with one? That was something else entirely. And yet here he was, standing in the doorway of his tiny city apartment, staring at the creature he was about to live with. Zynar was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Tall, at least 7 feet, with skin that shimmered faintly under the light. His eyes glowed softly, golden with flecks of green, and they seemed to look at everything at once. His body moved with grace, almost floating rather than walking, and there was a quiet hum around him like electricity in the air. Alex's heart raced. He should have been scared. Maybe he was. But curiosity, strange and thrilling, pushed fear aside. "Greetings," Zynar said. His voice was smooth, melodic, carrying a tone that somehow felt comforting. "I am your new roommate." Alex laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Right, roommate." The word felt strange in his mouth. Roommate, not prisoner. Not alien invader. Just roommate. Somehow, that made it worse. For the first few days, life went on quietly. Zynar was polite, almost too polite. He didn't talk much, just observed. He never interrupted, never asked unnecessary questions. He simply existed in the background, like a shadow that could glow. Alex would catch him watching, just standing there silently, studying how Alex moved, how he ate, how he slept. It was unnerving, but it wasn't threatening. Somehow it felt safe. Alex tried to act normal, pretending not to notice the alien in the apartment. But Zynar had a way of noticing things that Alex didn't even know he was doing. The tilt of his head when he was thinking, the way his hands fidgeted when he was nervous, the subtle sigh when he was tired. It was like Zynar could read everything about him without a single word. One night, Alex sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Zynar appeared silently behind him, holding 2 cups of tea. He handed one to Alex without a word. Alex looked up and met his glowing eyes. For a moment, there was something in that gaze, something that made Alex's chest tighten. It wasn't judgment, it wasn't curiosity, not really. It was attention. Pure, undivided attention, like someone seeing him in a way he had never been seen before. Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest, a combination of fear and excitement. He laughed nervously. "Thanks. I guess you are welcome," Zynar replied softly. "I wish to understand. Humans are intriguing. Humans, huh?" Alex muttered, staring at the glowing eyes. "You're studying me or something?" "In a way," Zynar said. "To coexist is to understand." Alex leaned back, feeling the weight of the day settle on him. There was something comforting in the alien's presence, even if he didn't fully understand why. He had spent years living alone, avoiding real connection, always putting up walls. And yet, here was Zynar, silently breaking through without force, without words, without expectation. It was strange. It was terrifying. It was fascinating. That night, as Alex lay in his bed, he couldn't stop thinking about Zynar. The way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he seemed to notice things Alex didn't even notice about himself. And somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of something, curiosity, maybe more, started to grow. He had no idea what would happen next. He had no idea how much this alien would change his life. But as he drifted into sleep, Alex realized that his life had already begun to change in ways he couldn't yet understand. The apartment didn't feel small anymore. The nights didn't feel empty. And even though fear lingered, there was something else there too, something like hope. And that hope was terrifying. Sunday mornings were Alex's favorite. The city was quiet, the sun spilling golden light through his small apartment window. And for a few hours, the world seemed to slow down. That morning, he had decided to take a long shower, enjoying the warmth as it ran down his back. The scent of soap filled the bathroom, and for a moment, Alex felt like he could forget everything, the bills, the work, the constant noise of life outside. He stepped out of the shower, wrapping himself in a towel, the soft fabric clinging to him. He hummed a tune softly, not noticing the quiet hum of Zynar moving through the apartment. Alex thought he was alone, thought he had privacy. But Zynar had returned earlier than usual, carrying a small basket of folded clothes he had picked up from the laundromat. He hadn't knocked. He hadn't even realized Alex would be like this. When Alex turned toward his bedroom, towel barely covering him, he froze. Zynar was standing in the doorway. His glowing eyes widened, not in shock, not in disgust, but in something else. Something curious. Alex's heart slammed against his chest. "Oh no! Wait, Alex stumbled over his words, trying to cover himself with trembling hands. "I didn't. You shouldn't." Zynar blinked slowly, the golden flecks in his eyes shimmering. He tilted his head as if trying to understand the concept of embarrassment. His hands lifted slightly, a universal gesture of surrender, and then he spoke. "I apologize," he said softly, his voice calm and careful. "I did not intend to see." Alex's face burned hotter than the shower water had been. He could barely breathe, let alone speak. It was as if every ounce of dignity he possessed had evaporated in an instant. He wanted to vanish. He wanted to escape. He wanted to yell and cry all at once, but then something unexpected happened. Zynar didn't leave. He didn't avert his eyes in disgust. He didn't act weird or awkward. He simply stood there, quiet, observing, and his voice came again, soft and strange, almost human. "You are different from what I expected. Not weaker. Not fragile. Alive." Alex froze. Alive? That word hit him like a punch. He had been thinking of himself as awkward, flawed, too human to be noticed. And here was Zynar, glowing alien roommate, telling him he was alive, not just physically, but fully, vividly, beautifully alive. The tension in the room was heavy, but it wasn't suffocating. Alex realized that Zynar wasn't judging. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't thinking less of him. He was seeing him fully, without pretense, without fear, without expectation. For a long moment, neither spoke. Alex tried to regain control, fumbling for words. I can get dressed now." "I'm sorry you need not apologize," Zynar said. "I have observed, and I see courage in you. Even in vulnerability." Alex couldn't stop staring. Courage? Invulnerability? He had always thought being seen like this was terrifying, humiliating, shameful. And yet in Zynar's eyes it was something noble, something human, something worth recognizing. He wrapped the towel tighter around his waist, finally stepping into his bedroom, but something inside him had shifted. The panic didn't disappear completely, but it softened. Somewhere deep down, Alex realized that this alien, this impossible being, wasn't someone he needed to fear. Maybe in some strange way, he could trust him. That night, Alex lay in bed, the golden morning light long gone, but the memory of Zynar's gaze burned brightly in his mind. He felt embarrassed, yes, but also seen, truly seen, and it was terrifying and thrilling all at once. Something had happened that Sunday morning, something that changed the quiet rhythm of his apartment, the strange companionship he shared with Zynar, something that Alex couldn't yet put into words. But he knew it was important. The accidental moment had revealed more than skin. It had revealed a glimpse of humanity, mirrored in alien eyes, and Alex knew, without fully understanding, that his life was about to be very different. The days after that Sunday morning were strange. Alex moved around the apartment cautiously, as if the walls themselves remembered what had happened. Even brushing his teeth felt exposed. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards, reminded him of Zynar's presence, quiet but always aware. Zynar, for his part, did not act differently. He didn't make awkward jokes. He didn't avoid Alex. He simply existed, going about his routines with the same quiet precision he always had. He cleaned, he organized, he prepared food, and he even left little notes on the kitchen counter with reminders or small observations. Alex found himself staring at one of those notes one evening. "You work hard, even when tired." That is admirable. He felt a strange warmth, a flutter in his chest. Nobody had ever said that to him before in such a simple, direct way. Not a teacher, not a friend, not even a family member. And yet here was this alien, seeing him, noticing him, appreciating the small things that made him human. The tension in the apartment was like a thin thread stretched too tight. Neither Alex nor Zynar spoke about the accident. Alex wanted to, but the words stuck in his throat. He didn't want to seem weak, embarrassed, or silly. And Zynar. Alex wasn't sure if he even had the words for an alien to process human embarrassment. One evening, Alex was making dinner, stirring pasta, trying not to burn it, when Zynar appeared in the doorway, carrying a small tray with herbs and spices. "You forgot these," Zynar said softly. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim kitchen light. Alex froze. He turned slowly, gripping the spoon. "Thanks," he mumbled, trying not to think about tea. He lingering memory of Zynar's gaze that morning. "I wish to help," Zynar continued, placing the tray down. "Coexistence is not only space, it is understanding. We must learn each other." Alex blinked. Understanding. That word struck him harder than any apology could have. He had felt humiliated, vulnerable, exposed, and yet Zynar's presence did not mock him. Instead, it offered patience, calm, and a quiet willingness to see him as he truly was. He realized, slowly, that the alien wasn't strange in a scary way. Zynar was kind, attentive, observant in ways humans rarely were. And for all Alex's fear and embarrassment, he felt a flicker of relief. Maybe this roommate wouldn't make him feel small. Maybe somehow he would help him feel human. Days turned into a week. The tension didn't vanish overnight, but it softened like ice melting under a warm sun. They developed a rhythm. Alex cooked, Zynar helped. Alex laughed quietly at Zynar's odd way of folding towels. Zynar watched him laugh, his glowing eyes flickering like sunlight on water. One night, Alex sat on the couch, exhausted after a long day of work. Zynar appeared quietly with 2 cups of tea. "For you," he said, offering one. Alex hesitated, then took it. "Thanks," Alex said, his voice quieter than usual. "You are welcome," Zynar replied. "Do not fear being seen. That is human, yes, but it is also courage." Alex's chest tightened. Courage. That word had never been applied to him before. Not for standing at work, not for surviving life's daily grind, not for anything. And yet here was Zynar, glowing and alien, telling him that being vulnerable, being human, was brave. For the first time in a long while, Alex felt understood. Truly understood. Not judged. Not analyzed. Not pitied. Just seen. That night, lying in bed, Alex thought about Zynar's words. He thought about how strange, impossible, and beautiful it was to share his life with someone who could see him so clearly. And he realized that the accident, the moment he had feared the most, had done something remarkable. It had begun to build a bridge, a connection between human and alien, embarrassment and trust, fear and acceptance. Somehow, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. Over the next week, the apartment began to feel different. The awkward tension that had filled the air after the Sunday morning incident started to fade, replaced by a quiet rhythm. Alex noticed things about Zynar he hadn't before. The gentle way he moved, the careful attention he paid to small details, the way he always remembered where Alex left his keys or coffee mug. Zynar, in turn, seemed to notice more about Alex. Not just the obvious, physical things, but the subtle emotions, the little habits, the moments when Alex was lost in thought or struggling to hold back a sigh. One evening, as Alex was sitting at the table flipping through bills he didn't want to pay, Zynar came and placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You carry too much alone," Zynar said softly. His voice, always calm, carried warmth tonight. "Even humans must sometimes allow others to share the burden." Alex looked up, startled. It was not a reprimand, not a criticism, not pity. It was recognition. He felt as if Zynar could see the exhaustion in his shoulders, the stress in his eyes, the weight he had carried silently for years. And in that moment, Alex realized he had never been seen like this before, not by friends, family, co-workers, or anyone else. But here, in his small apartment, this alien being saw him fully. He exhaled slowly, a lump in his throat. I guess I never thought someone would notice." "You are alive," Xenar said simply. Alive in ways that are intricate, fragile, beautiful. Alex blinked, unsure how to respond. He had never heard his life described like that. Beautiful, fragile, alive. He wanted to laugh, cry, and scream all at once. Instead, he nodded silently, feeling warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the tea Xenar had brought. In the following days, Alex noticed how Xenar's presence had begun to change him. He started opening up in small ways, talking about work, sharing a joke, laughing when Xenar mimicked human gestures awkwardly but earnestly. Xenar listened, never judging, always curious, always present. One evening, Alex found himself talking about childhood dreams, memories he hadn't revisited in years. Xenar listened, his glowing eyes reflecting something like empathy. When Alex finished, Xenar said, "Your hopes, they are strong. Even humans who doubt themselves carry courage within. That is remarkable." Alex's heart ached at the words. Courage. He had thought that word belonged only to heroes, to people who did great things. And yet this alien, this impossible glowing being, saw courage in his ordinary life. Just living, just surviving, just being himself. It was humbling, it was terrifying, and it was beautiful. That night, as Alex lay in bed, he thought about the moments they had shared. The accidental incident that had left him vulnerable. The quiet care Xenar had shown since then. The simple recognition that being human, being fully alive, with fears, flaws, and hopes, was something worth noticing, worth admiring. He realized, slowly, that Xenar had taught him something important. That connection was more than words, more than appearances. It was attention, understanding, and respect. It was noticing courage where no one else did. It was seeing value where the world often overlooked it. Alex felt a sense of gratitude that went deeper than anything he had felt in a long time. He didn't fully understand this alien being. Xenar's world was vast, his experiences impossible for a human mind to grasp. But he understood the intention behind his actions, and that was enough. For the first time in years, Alex felt seen. Not for what he looked like, not for what he could offer, but simply for being alive. And it was a feeling that warmed him from the inside out, filling the apartment with a quiet light that rivaled the glow of Xenar's eyes. He knew their relationship was changing, slowly, carefully, but it was changing. And somewhere deep inside, Alex allowed himself to hope that this connection, the fragile, beautiful bridge between human and alien, was only the beginning. The bond between Alex and Xenar began to grow quietly, like a small flame that refused to die. The awkward distance that once existed between them had turned into a gentle closeness. They didn't need to talk all the time. Sometimes silence spoke louder than words. In the mornings, Xenar would prepare tea before Alex even woke up. The scent would fill the apartment, soft and comforting. Alex started to look forward to those quiet moments, the warmth of the cup in his hands, the glow of Xenar's eyes across the table, and the strange peace that surrounded them. One evening, after a long day, Alex came home exhausted. He dropped his bag, kicked off his shoes, and sat on the floor. His shoulders were heavy, his eyes dull. He didn't even notice Xenar at first, standing quietly in the doorway. "You are tired again," Xenar said softly. Alex sighed. "Work's been rough. People can be cruel sometimes." Xenar tilted his head, the golden flecks in his eyes shimmering faintly. Humans hurt each other even when they need the same things. Kindness, understanding, warmth. "Why?" Alex smiled weakly. "Maybe because it's easier to pretend we don't care." Xenar moved closer, kneeling in front of him. His expression was unreadable, but his voice was gentle. "You care. That is clear. You hide it, but it is there." Something about the way he said it, so calm, so certain, broke through Alex's tiredness. His throat tightened. "Yeah, I do care. Maybe too much sometimes." Xenar reached out, hesitating only for a second before placing a glowing hand on Alex's shoulder. The touch wasn't cold or hot. It felt like warmth from within, like comfort itself had taken form. "You carry emotions like light," Zynar said softly. Even when you are hurt, you keep shining. Alex blinked, his chest tightening with something unfamiliar. Nobody had ever told him that before. In a world where people often ignored him, judged him, or dismissed him, this alien, this being from another world, had seen light inside him. They sat in silence for a while. The apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. Alex could feel his heartbeat slowing, his mind finally relaxing. After a few minutes, he spoke again. Zynar, do your people feel the same? Emotions, I mean. Zynar looked thoughtful. We feel, but not as humans do. Our emotions are shared. We do not hide them. When one of us feels joy, all feel it. When one grieves, all grieve. It is unity. Alex smiled faintly. That sounds nice. It is, Zynar said. But it means we do not learn to be alone. You humans, though you suffer, you find meaning in it. You endure. That is why I admire your kind. The words touched Alex deeply. For years he had thought his loneliness was a weakness, but hearing Zynar speak made him see it differently. Humans didn't just survive, they endured. And maybe that endurance, that quiet strength, was something powerful, after all. Later that night, they sat on the couch together, watching the soft lights of the city through the window. Zynar asked questions, small, innocent ones, about human love, laughter, dreams. Alex answered patiently, smiling more than he realized. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. A warmth, a trust, a connection that neither of them could name, but both could feel deeply. Before going to bed, Alex turned to Zynar and said softly, You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're here. Zynar tilted his head, his golden eyes glowing brighter. And I am glad that you let me stay. It was a simple exchange, but it meant more than either of them could say. As Alex lay in bed that night, he thought about how strange life could be. An accidental moment of embarrassment had turned into a friendship, a connection that felt deeper than anything he'd ever known. And somewhere in that quiet night, as the alien's soft hum filled the air, Alex realized something profound. Sometimes the universe doesn't send you what you expect. It sends you what you need. The days flowed like quiet waves after that night. Alex and Zynar had found an easy rhythm, something peaceful and natural. Yet beneath that calm surface, Alex carried a growing storm inside him. He had been pretending to be fine, keeping his smile steady, but work had been getting worse. People at the office whispered behind his back, mocking his quiet nature, his kindness, his sensitivity. He tried to ignore it, but their words sank deep. Every insult, every laugh chipped away at something inside him. One evening, he came home later than usual. The city lights outside blurred through tired eyes. He dropped his bag and sank onto the couch, silent. His face was pale, his hands trembling slightly. Zynar, who had been sitting by the window watching the stars, turned toward him. You are not well, he said softly. Alex tried to force a smile. Just tired, Zynar tilted his head. No, it is more. Those 4 words broke something in Alex. He covered his face with his hands, his voice trembling. I'm tired of everything, Zynar. I try to be kind. I try to do things right. But people just see me as weak. They use me, laugh at me. I don't even know why I try anymore. The room fell silent. Zynar stood slowly and moved closer, his glowing presence filling the dim apartment with soft light. He knelt in front of Alex, looking into his tear-filled eyes. You believe weakness is in kindness? He asked gently. Alex's breath hitched. Isn't it? No, Zynar said firmly, his voice calm but strong. Kindness is not weakness. It is strength that chooses not to harm. It is courage that continues to care, even when the world does not care back. Alex's hands trembled as he lowered them. He met Zynar's eyes, golden and bright, reflecting a kind of wisdom that felt ancient and pure. But it hurts, he whispered. Caring always hurts. Yes, Zynar replied softly. But only hearts that are alive can feel pain. You hurt because you love. You suffer because you hope. That is what makes you human. That is what makes you extraordinary. For a long moment, Alex couldn't speak. He just stared at Zynar, feeling the words settle into the broken parts of him like gentle sunlight. No one had ever said that before. No one had ever told him that his pain meant something. Zynar's voice lowered. Where I come from, emotions are shared. We do not hide sadness or fear. But you humans, you carry it alone. That is a heavy thing. You endure storms in silence. I do not understand how you survive it, but I admire that you do. Alex's eyes filled again, but this time with warmth. He reached out slowly, hesitantly, and placed his hand over Zynar's. The alien's skin shimmered under his touch, warm and soft. Maybe, Alex said quietly. We survive because sometimes someone reminds us that we're not alone. Zynar's eyes glowed brighter. Then let me be that someone. The words hit deep. Alex nodded slowly, unable to stop a tear from falling. But it wasn't sadness this time, it was relief. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel like he had to hide his emotions. They sat there together, human and alien, two beings from different worlds, united by something simple yet powerful, understanding. That night, the apartment felt different. It wasn't just shared space anymore. It was a home. Zynar stayed by Alex's side, quiet and calm, like a silent guardian. As Alex drifted into sleep, he heard Zynar whisper softly, "You humans shine brightest in darkness. That is why the universe watches you. You fall, but you rise again, always." A faint smile touched Alex's lips as he closed his eyes. He didn't feel small anymore. He didn't feel weak. He felt human. And for the first time, that word felt like the greatest strength in the universe. The days that followed were peaceful, almost too peaceful. Alex felt lighter than he had in years. The laughter came easier now, the nights didn't feel so long, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't wake up dreading the day ahead. Zynar had changed him in quiet ways. The alien never lectured or judged, he just understood. Every word he spoke carried warmth. Every silence carried comfort. Together they had built something fragile but real. But peace, as always, never lasted. One evening, Alex returned home to find Zynar standing near the window, his entire body glowing brighter than usual. The air around him shimmered faintly like ripples of heat. He turned when Alex entered, and there was something heavy in his golden eyes. "Alex," he said softly, "I must tell you something." Alex frowned, sensing the tension. "What's wrong?" Zynar took a deep breath, if that was what his kind did, and looked out at the night sky. "My people have found me. They are coming." For a moment, Alex didn't understand. "Coming? You mean to take you back?" "Yes," Zynar said quietly. "I was never meant to stay this long. My mission was only to observe, to learn about humans. But I stayed because I found something worth staying for." The words hit Alex like a cold wind. He stepped forward, his voice cracking. "You can't just leave." Zynar's eyes softened. "I do not want to, but if I do not return, they will come for me by force, and I will not let them harm your world." Silence filled the room like a storm cloud. Alex looked at him, tears welling up. "You came here as a researcher, and now you're leaving as my best friend." Zynar smiled faintly, the light on his face trembling. "You taught me what no data ever could. You showed me what it means to feel, to care, to forgive." Alex's chest ached. "And you taught me that kindness isn't weakness, that being human is something powerful." For a long time, neither spoke. The city lights flickered beyond the window, and the low hum of life outside felt distant. Then, slowly, Zynar reached out and touched Alex's chest, right over his heart. His touch was warm, pulsing with soft golden light. "This," he said quietly, "this is what your kind has that no other species does. The ability to love without reason, to hope without proof, to rise again after every fall. That is your greatest strength." Alex could barely breathe. "Will I ever see you again?" Zynar hesitated. "The universe is vast, but bonds like ours echo through it. Even if I am gone, a part of me will always be with you." His glow grew brighter now, so bright it filled the room with gold. The air vibrated softly, and Alex could hear a faint hum, like 1,000 distant voices calling him home. Tears rolled down Alex's cheeks. He wanted to hold on, to beg him to stay, but he knew Zynar wasn't his to keep. He was something larger, something meant to remind humanity of its light. Zynar smiled one last time. "Goodbye, Alex. Live as you are meant to live, brightly." And with that, the light burst around him. It wasn't blinding. It was beautiful, warm, comforting. Then, slowly, it faded, leaving only silence and the faint shimmer of gold dust in the air. Alex stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space. The apartment felt different now, quiet but not lonely. There was still warmth in the air, like the echo of a heartbeat that wasn't his. He walked to the window and looked up at the stars. For the first time, he didn't feel small beneath them. He felt connected to something greater, something infinite. And as he whispered softly into the night, "Goodbye, my friend," a single streak of golden light crossed the sky, as if answering him. Alex smiled through his tears, because he knew Zynar was still out there, somewhere in the vast universe, and the lesson he left behind would never fade. Humanity's heart is its greatest power.